It's time.
Oh,
Y'all are talking.
okay.
All
Let
right.
me get the...
Do we need to be in this or in that? Or does it matter?
in this.
Both. We're doing
Oh,
both, but mostly this.
Mostly this. Get on close, girl.
I know, right?
Scooch on in. Can I
Hello.
scooch on in? Let's start the recording. Testing.
1, 2. Buckle
We
my
are...
shoe.
Wow, we're like real profesh. We got the podcast rolling. We got the Instawebs. What's up, gang, gang?
Gang, gang.
Do we need to have a something up so we can see the questions, because I can't see that far.
Probably, but I don't know what to do.
If I opened it on my phone, would that work?
Open it on your
Okay.
phone, Katie,
I will
and pull
do
it up. That way we can
Just
see everybody.
technical things. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
We're
Hola.
You'd think as early as we got here, we would have already been prepared and had all this set up, but you know what? We're going with the flow.
We're doing it.
So-
We're still doing it. It is being done.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Is this Becca? Oh, there's
Yeah,
the
and we're
live.
also
That'd be
operating
it.
like the podcast, recording on the computer, and streaming live to you. You want to move your water bottle so they can see your
Oh,
beautiful
yeah.
face
No,
on
it's
that
kind
one?
of a nice blue, though, but yes.
Okay. So this is the mid-month vibe check for October.
Thank you.
I'm Ashli, aka Lunar Crystalline. I'm a practicing witch, specializing in ancestral and herbal magic, an energy healer, a sacral embodiment coach. I always forget there's so many things, right?
You do all the
An
things.
aspiring astrologer,
Primal movement,
primal movement instructor, all the things.
ecstatic dance.
Ecstatic- Well, she's more of the ecstatic dance.
We'll
I
get
think
to
we do
that.
it together.
We do it
Yeah,
together.
we host workshops together, so, you know.
Yeah.
Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True that.
Oh, and I'm a medicine woman, so I'm a certified herbalist. I work with divine plant medicines, holding ceremonies as well. That is a big part of my path. All the things. This is the lovely
Akashic Beck. Hi. I'm Akashic Beck, and I'm an Akashic Records reader, numerologist, and an SCHH practitioner, soul center healing hypnosis that incorporates past life regression, higher self communication, and entity release.
Mm-hmm.
I can vouch for all of those services because I've had all of them. Getting closer to me,
Same.
Mamacita. I feel like you're not close enough to me.
I'm not.
I'm needy.
Far away.
I like your snuggles.
I know. The
All right,
best
cool. There we go.
snuggles.
Want to make sure they can see your beautiful face.
And today we are so blessed to be joined by the wonderful, the amazing Katie Billings. Say hello, Katie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katie Billings. Yeah, should I say more
give
about
them the
myself
spiel.
here?
Please
Okay, this is my
do.
first time
Please
on
do.
here. So I am an intuitive oracle and medium. The name of my business is Hari Ananda Healing Arts, but you can access it through my Instagram and Facebook pages under Katie Billings for now. I'm also a Kundalini yoga and meditation instructor. I enjoy putting together collaborative classes, host classes a lot outdoors, and workshops, a lot of things coming up in the future. Hosted collaborative classes with Becca and Ashli. I like to tie different disciplines together. So
Yes.
tie in the numerology to the Kundalini yoga practice and tie in the herbal magic, you know. And that being said, I'm also a certified Avalonian priestess. Went through a year and a day program with Pixie Morris.
Shout out.
And yeah, she's awesome. She's the good witch of Charleston, South Carolina. And I can attest to that being true. So I am an eclectic witch. I love to put together ritual and bring together community to help people tap into their own magic, to tap into connection with the elements, with animal and plant spirits. A big part of my daily practice is meditation and connecting with particularly the spirits of plants as they come. And so just helping people tap into their spirit connection, their ancestral connections and things like that through community and ritual.
Beautiful.
Wow.
I love that.
Somebody practiced.
Oh.
I love that.
I have some notes, yeah.
We always come prepared.
Yes.
Yeah.
with the notes.
But we're so grateful everybody's here joining us here at A New Day Studio. Shout out to A New Day Studio for allowing us to record. The wonderful Jennifer Ledbetter, who is such a beam of light.
Do you want to come in and say hi? Come on.
Welcome.
She's behind the scenes.
Yeah. We have an audience today. It's great.
Yes, wonderful. Well, we're so glad to have everybody here. It's always
good to be here.
nice for things to flow together like they do. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
we're gonna get silly here in a minute. I feel like we're being like all proper and stuff because Jennifer's watching, but we start cutting up here pretty soon. So if you want to come,
angels.
Awesome. So I think before we get into the energetics, the numerology, the astrology of the month, we kind of want to highlight Katie and all of her awesomeness. She is going to be with us on a retreat. Did you mention that?
I have not.
Okay, yeah.
Ooh, yes.
So we've got a retreat coming up next year in, can I say it? In Salem, Massachusetts. The theme of it being surrounding the witch wound. The witch wound being, empowerment, stepping into empowerment, releasing outdated structural and societal names and perceptions on what it is to be a woman in her power, or a man, just to be someone in their power. It's going to highlight a lot of different things, a lot of different gifts, all with the premise to get you comfortable in being in your gifts unapologetically. So, it's going to be great. So, Katie will be joining us as co-leader.
Hey, co-leaders.
It's going to be fantastic. Along with the Memphis Sound Healer, she was on the podcast, The Last Vibe Check. So, I think we'll just get into, we got our questions. So, we were, super profesh, or Becca was for the most part. I, did 2 of them.
Which 2 of those?
It was the last, I came in on the tail end of it.
Right on.
So, do you want to ask her the questions? Do you want to get into it? What is life today?
I know, what is life?
I feel like we're floating, which is
I feel
big
like we're
energy.
floating.
The Mercury square Neptune is definitely, Mars square Neptune is definitely creating some,
It sure is.
Yeah, so.
It sure is.
Yeah. We got it.
We can't help it.
Friday.
And we're in a 7 universal month, so we're all up in our mental energy. It's encompassing this space right now.
Yep.
And we're going in between being focused and ready, like we were earlier, and then wanting to take a nap.
The moon's moving out of Gemini into Cancer, so we got it. All right.
Okay, well, Katie, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, Katie, I know you told us a little bit about yourself, but could you kind of elaborate a little bit more? Tell us a little bit about your story and your spiritual journey.
Okay. I've really appreciated this question because it gives you time to kind of sit and kind of look at what that was,
Right.
And I actually, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and my mother was very much like the typical good girl, rule follower, right? Didn't question societal norms, very much did not want me to. Grew up in a Methodist church. We did go to Sunday school. We went to Wednesday night supper,
Yeah.
and all of those things. But as I got older and I started having a lot of questions for my mom, especially as I got to I would say 6th grade, when you start to, in adolescence. And I just started questioning things. And there were things, too, that were in her belief system that just didn't really jive with me. And I was also aware of these other paths, I was curious about them. And she was very adamant that was just not, that there was no reason to look these other ways, and just to keep our head down, keep ourselves out of hell, basically.
Keep crying.
And what's really funny, when I was a little girl, I took it very seriously. This is actually a true story. It's really funny. I didn't plan to tell it, but I remember being in 1st grade and I had told a lie because I cheated on a spelling test. My teacher was sure I did, but I was adamant about that I didn't. So I pretended to walk to the classroom sink during the spelling test, and then paused to look at this dude's, and came back. And I was I lied. And I sat on the playground by myself and accepted. I was I'm going to hell. Literally. I had that moment. And then I hopped back up and ran back over. And I remember they were doing relay races. And I was all right, back to the relay races, But I think there's a lot of pressure in those systems, you know what I mean, to just be perfect. And it almost was just not even acceptant of our humanity,
Right.
like our core being. And so I did start exploring some aspects of witchcraft and paganism as I entered high school. I became very kind of enthralled, honestly, with Jim Morrison of The Doors.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And you know, his poetic essence. And I started reading his poetry books, and I started learning, and I was like, wow, you know, this guy actually at one point he went and lived on like a rooftop, you know, like kind of just said, forget everything, I'm figuring out my own path, I'm listening to my soul and my intuition. And I very much align with feeling like the soul of the poet, you know. And so I was compelled, right? So I had an opportunity in high school to have a psychedelic experience, and I chose to partake. And that experience was very impactful. It was a beautiful experience. Ended up being back in my backyard, outdoors, under the night sky. My best friend Anna and I literally having like awakenings, you know, like our consciousness, we just were seeing everything like it was new and seeing the trees breathe. And what we started to notice very soon thereafter is that our third eye chakra, which we didn't even know what it was, had been blown like wide open.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
We would do that.
Okay. And I started like not having had any guidance, just laying in my bed and focusing on that point and seeing a blue light, you know. And I started noticing, like, I don't know if I was receiving maybe some messages from guides at the time, because I didn't really acknowledge that that maybe was a thing until much later in life, but I was getting guidance to focus on that center and then think about things that I wanted to bring into my life. And then Anna and I would start playing with it.
Yeah.
And so like we'd start, like I would be like, I'm going to send you a message tomorrow during school, you know, like, and she'd be like, was it during art class, you know, and stuff like that. And I started noticing really weird things, like people I would focus on, I would end up crossing their path. And it was like, whoa, this is really intense, right? So Anna, actually, okay, so a little side trail. I have another little announcement to make on your podcast.
Okay.
That I am soon going to be starting my own podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And it is going to be called The Sunset Witchery.
Ooh.
And what it will be is actually, at first, I'm just going to kind of talk about my journey, right? And I'm going to bring people in who have been mentors or friends along the path. So Anna, I got in touch with her, and she's going to be on it. And I'm so
That's
freaking
amazing.
excited.
Oh,
I
that's
know.
great.
The origin story.
So
Yeah.
have you maintained communication with her all these years?
We
or
don't
did
talk
you...
a lot, you know. I
Okay.
mean, we might check in every couple years.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but she's so excited about it. She was like, yes, 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 let's do it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and she and I would start going to cemeteries, and we started noticing we could feel energy, you know, there, and the energies of like kind of maybe who was, you know, whose life was being commemorated and kind of their spirit. So anyway, that was kind of a beginning right there, and really realizing that I could feel the energies, you know, which I think we all can if we tune in nature and otherwise.
It's a muscle, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Totally.
I think so. Yeah, so skip forward a little bit. I moved to Austin, Texas. I had some more really interesting experiences with intention. And realizing, like, again, these were experiences where plant medicine was involved, but where the collaborative intention of a group could create an outcome.
Okay.
And if everyone wasn't on board, it wouldn't. And came to like learn that like the lighting of the fire, like everyone had to be on board in the group. And had two situations where we called upon the element of fire to like collaborate with us in a windy, freezing, you know, we had hiked down into like it was the Barton Creek green bed is what it was, but it was like the winter.
Yeah.
Because we're kids and we're like, yeah, we'll go down there, it'll be cool, it's freezing. And we found wood in the woods and built a fire, you know. And so through our collaborative efforts and calling on that, it was really powerful. And then had that same experience at another time. So anyway, those were just kind of things that were solidifying the intentionality and the fact that we can work with the elements.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of fast forward, my spiritual journey was really heightened when I started practicing Kundalini yoga, which was in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a Thanksgiving class at Delta Groove Yoga with Valentine Leonard, the amazing.
Shout out.
Yeah, to Valentine. And that class literally changed our lives. Charles and I, my husband who attended with me, we went to the park after that class and we rewrote and integrated huge life changes.
Very cool.
And I decided that day I would do the training for a year and I would, I would participate for 1 year as like a student and then I would do the training. And so, yeah, that happened. I feel like I'm being really long-winded.
Yeah.
No, you're not. No, it's perfectly fine. Go ahead.
And that just sort of led. That's where I met Pixie. Was there. I happened to get a message that I should take on a mentor, and I joined her training, which was amazing for that year and a day. It was again kind of solidified to me to kind of work with the spirits of plants and animals during that, and to collaborate with them. And I went on from there to start to feel like my intuition was opening a little further. I took another couple courses. I participated in a course called the Seance Coven with Kat and Dan Eckhart, who are incredible, based out of Maryland, and explored different types of channeling and gifts. And so from there, I started practicing as an oracle and intuitive. And yeah, their guidance. And I think that just taking on mentors is so helpful.
Yes.
Because it gives that structure to the learning. And
Said
then
the Capricorn.
I love it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. So, and now here I am with these amazing women, and just the Memphis spiritual community is incredible. So grateful for it all. And so here we are, just kind of building, setting intentions for the future, the retreat, and all that good stuff.
Community building.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Katie. That was so awesome.
That was.
I love
Yeah.
that. I know. I mean, our spiritual journeys all look different. And I know you said, oh, I feel long-winded. It's like, no, take all the time you need. Like,
right.
You worked really hard to get to where you are, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate that. Honor it.
Cool.
Okay, next question. I forgot. Do you remember?
You were memorizing the question.
I was.
Wow, you're amazing.
Wow.
I got it. Here we go.
We
All right, next question. Did mediumship come naturally to you? Okay, yeah.
So, I would say, in a way, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I realize now, after taking the course, that I was doing automatic writing. I've looked back through things that I, wrote, especially as I went through priestess training. I remember channeling some messages, from, like, I remember like a blues musician who had clearly lived in the Memphis area, and just taking through these messages as they would come through.
Do you remember who it was?
No, I don't. No.
You're like, can I have an autograph?
Right. But through my own hand. That could be a new thing,
My
right?
brain was like computing what you were saying. I was like, oh.
I'm sorry. I
Don't.
trailed off. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't even know if I got as far as the name, but like the messages that came through were clearly like other and really impactful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you actually, so Becca helped me a lot with understanding that I was receiving messages from some of my guides. I did an Akashic Records reading with Becca about a year ago.
Has it been that long?
It was.
Wow.
It was in October of 2021.
It feels like it was 5 minutes ago and also 10 years ago at the same time.
Yep.
And so, like, yeah.
It's because I feel like I've known you forever, that's all.
I had been having these names come through, and I had been writing from, the perspective of a guide who I can share.
Yeah, go
their
ahead.
name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sybil.
Mm-hmm.
And the wild thing was that these two guides immediately came forward to Becca, and when she was like, two guides have just stepped forward, and these are their names, and they were the names of the two, who had been coming. So it was really incredible and helpful, and I think that's why it's so important for us to have community in all of this, and not just try to like lean on our own understanding,
Right.
because we can help validate each other and
Absolutely.
do readings for each other. So
Absolutely.
so yeah, but I think, when I was younger, I don't think that that was really happening until maybe a few years ago. And then I just started getting a lot of messages to like start really listening to my intuition and to start doing readings, even though I don't have tarot memorized. It was to do it intuitively, which was how I was taught. And I started doing that, and it was like I almost felt like I couldn't not do it. And then the prompting was to like do the channeling, and I was like, well, I'm either doing it or I'm crazy. And I'll find out.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, nope, or not. And I just, so it was just kind of a, just part of the trust process, I guess. But it was definitely like an urge that was like, if you don't do this, you will like, you will not be happy. You will not be fulfilled. And there'll be this nagging. Yeah.
For sure. You heeded the call. I'm glad you did.
I'm glad you did too.
I'm going to skip this one because you kind of answered it already.
Yeah.
So next question,
Cool.
which you've told us one, but what deities, guides, ancestors do you feel most connected to in your practice?
Okay. I work with several regular guides and deities, but I do call on other energies a lot. But the main guide that I work with is Hecate. She came to me about a year and 3 months ago and was very insistent that I work with her. And I was feeling like I should as well, And so she has come to me as very much a guide, very much. So Hecate is like this goddess of, it might sound a little, a little
Say it.
Dark.
Yeah.
But she's like the goddess of witchcraft, of necromancy, which makes sense for communing with the dead. And the crossroads, she helps people who are at a crossroads in their life, making decisions such as death, right, as a crossroad. She can see in 3 directions at all times, very much associated with dogs, like the energy of the canine. And she has a really beautiful energy, and she has a very deep relationship with plant medicine. And I think that was a huge part of the call, because when I started reading her book, Keeping Her Keys, it was like a remembrance. It was like everything that, every herbal concoction sounds like familiar and makes sense. So it's been kind of like just a call back to self. And I've since connected to like through a session with Ashli, actually, a rape ceremony, with my like most ancient earth ancestor grandmother energy, Amina, and she told me that she too is affiliated with Hecate. And the oak tree. And there's an oak tree in Memphis that I've been going to for the last year and 3 months and sitting under every day. That is the Hecate tree, to me. So that was amazing. So yeah, she's the main one. I also work with Ganesh. Big Ganesh fan. I work with Kuan Yin. And I've often worked with Lakshmi, Green Tara, Durga energy. Work with Christ Consciousness and Mary Magdalene as a tag team duo for shadow work. And the wolf. Yeah. I have a wolf spirit guide as well.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. And I like to always mention the animal spirit guides because, I mean, I feel like sometimes they can get overlooked, but they're just as important and potent and powerful as, Ganesh and all these other, heavy hitters, if you will. So don't discount your animal spirit guides.
Don't do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing, and they're all our teachers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That elemental spirit. That's awesome. Yeah. What's our next question?
All right, last question. What does a session with you look like?
Okay. All right. Cool. That's a good question. I get asked it a lot. I've been thinking
That's
I should
why I
type out a
asked.
template.
Here
and,
you go.
Totally
This is the template. You
should.
can
Here's the
transcribe
template.
this
You know?
right now. Here we go.
Okay, so right now I do my sessions by recording. Okay, they aren't done live. And what I do is I connect with your guides. I connect with sometimes what will happen, I'm noticing a pattern, is traveling into your past life. And will receive information that is pertinent to your most exalted path unfolding. Okay, so a session with me begins, of course, with just like a consultation, right? I feel like I sound so proper.
I know.
With a consultation.
Oh, your
A cup of tea.
There it is. I'm like, when are we gonna cut up?
Like, that makes us laugh. Yeah.
It's just so serious.
I don't know.
Tell us about your consultations. Though.
My consultations.
Only if you speak in that accent for the rest of the time, though.
Okay. Are you ready for it?
Consultation.
Oh, you're ready.
Pinkies out.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, I'll see if you have like any questions. You know, people have specific questions they want to ask. That's great. They might just want a general reading, and that's cool too. Either way, I ask for their, what is it? When you tell me you can do something, you're giving me the go. Permission.
Permission.
I was like, what?
Permission.
That.
I'm asking for permission to connect with your guides. Okay, because I'm never going to try to just connect with people's guides
Exactly.
without
Yes.
their permission. I'm not going to try to get into your energy or anything like that. Okay.
Because that's rude.
Yeah. Ain't nobody got time with that. And what they're like, no. Talk to her first.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. So then what happens? Okay, so once you've decided, then what I do is I create sacred space, right? So I always cleanse the energy, and I create an altar just for you. So I've always been guided as I create my altars to put whatever's on them, like spirit is guiding me, you know? So I might bring a rose quartz, I might bring a plant, and it's usually, it's usually pretty elaborate actually. I'll send a photo, you know? And as I go through the reading, oftentimes they'll be revealed to me why these items are at your altar, you know. Then I chant a protection mantra. I usually play the mantra as well, you know, while I'm cleansing. I cast a protective circle, and then I call in my guides. I set the intention for any information to be received to be for your highest good and most exalted unfolding, and I will call in your guides as well. Okay. I will state any questions as you've stated them, you know, and ask your guides. Okay. And then what happens is kind of like I go into a meditation, and usually the spirit team arrives, and they arrive in a certain formation, and I see them, and I'll start explaining to you what I'm seeing. And then I'll often receive like visual imagery of different things going on, and I relay it, and spirit will start to come through. So generally they'll announce kind of who they are, and then they will either show me a scene or they will directly verbally address you, you know, and so I'll bring the messages in that way. And usually there are several. And it's really adorable. Like when they leave, they all have their own way to exit. And sometimes they know people are waiting. And, you know, sometimes it feels like...
Like they're right there at the door.
Yeah. They're like, next, you know? And, yeah. And then, like, you know, usually I'm prompted to draw, you know, a tarot card, an oracle card, a rune, something like that. Usually a couple, 2 or 3 cards end up coming through. At the end, just, you know, I thank everyone for being there. And, yeah.
Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. Cheerio.
Cheerio.
You know? Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then I send it, you know, and that's that. But I have done a session done 2 sessions in person, and it is interesting. It's something that I entertain the possibility of doing more, because some ancestors want to speak directly to their loved one.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I had a reading once where that happened and the person wasn't there, and it made me realize that that's a door that I think is wanting to be opened.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like this energy exchange, you
Yeah.
know, and doing it in real time
Yeah.
there's nothing else like it.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that could be something like coming,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wonderful.
Oh, we got a heart. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Oh, it's Charles.
Aw.
Hello, Charles.
Hello.
Hey, babe.
Oh, Charles.
All right, well, wonderful.
Yes,
do you
thank
wanna,
you.
Yeah, you want to let everybody know. So we're going to put all of Katie's deets in the info under the video so you can learn where to find her. Do you have anything special coming up? I already know the answer to this, but you want to let everybody know.
You don't say.
What? You told me. You want to let them know some things you have coming up for the month of October?
Yes, I do. Yes, I
Yes.
do. It just so happens. So Ashli and I are going to have a Samhain. We are.
We are.
We're having a Samhain ritual. I thought that's what you were talking
I
about.
know.
Yeah, coming up in October, and that's going to be amazing on October 29th at Delta Groove. Yeah, that should be really beautiful. I have community classes going on, Kundalini Yoga. Like I said, I collaborate with people in the community, bring in musicians, bring in people just with all kinds of gifts to share. So those are ongoing, and I will always have information on my own Facebook page. I create events for those. So it's kind of going, what I've noticed is like, the season's changing. Have y'all noticed?
Oh, yes.
And it's getting really dark early, and my classes have been at the parks primarily. And so it's going through a little shift as we figure out what it looks like. But there's there's a couple spaces that are looking like where we're going to be. So I will keep you guys posted on that. And then I guess the main thing that I'm super excited about is this retreat next year in Salem. And
do we want to
just
talk a little bit more about that?
Do you right now? Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So this retreat in Salem, as we said, it's going to be about the witch wound, but it's more than that. It's about like allowing yourself to embody who you truly are, your authenticity, your power, your gifts, whatever's coming through that has felt suppressed in some way. Maybe it's something that maybe you aren't fully cognitively aware of what it is. Like, we want to help you find that. It's also going to be, about healing, if there, aside from the witch wound, but if there's something that is coming up for you that wants to be healed, like that's something. These are all things that we're going to dive into during the witch wound retreat. And then Ashli and Katie and the Memphis Sound Healer and I are all going to bring our gifts. So, we will have classes, so we can have a learning experience, and have the tools that you can use to empower yourself as you move forward after the retreat. We're going to have
I have
all
the
kinds
retreat notes up. I'm like, let's tell them some of the classes we're gonna have.
Yes, let's do it. But we're also gonna have fun. We will have a day where we go around Salem and like a bunch of tourists and explore everything.
Gotta do it.
Yeah, and
there's gonna be ceremony. There's gonna be rituals. I'll be doing Rape's. Katie and I think we're in conjunction going to be doing Rape's ceremony / breath work mantra in the mornings for people who want to wake up super early with us at 5:30.
Like watch the sunrise.
Yeah, watch the sunrise and stuff. And then Becca and I will be doing energetic check-ins and numerology for the day. I'll be coming up with a daily tea to kind of work with the energetics for the day. We've got the Memphis Sound Healer doing some sound healing classes. I think she has like 3 of them lined up in there. Yep. Becca's going to be doing Akashic reading. She's going to be doing numerology classes. Katie's going to be doing... You doing, Katie? Kundalini. She's going to be doing...
We're going to do the ecstatic dance.
Ecstatic dance and primal movement. That's going to be great. Yeah. I think we're even doing that throwing the bones and ancestral magic class, which I'm super stoked about.
It's going to be incredible, you guys.
Yeah.
Like, y'all don't even know.
So it is. We're gonna have details coming out towards the end of the year,
Yes.
beginning of January, and start. We already have a couple people tentatively signed up. It is limited spots, but it's all inclusive except for airfare. So it includes meals, boarding, and all of the classes and workshops. And then on the side of that, we'll have private sessions available for those who are interested. So yeah, it's gonna be lit.
Yes, and any tours that we do
are included as well.
Yes. Right.
You'll get chauffeured around in a big eco van. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about anything while you're there.
Right.
Just healing,
just souvenirs,
and expanding your
souvenirs.
souvenirs.
Yeah,
that too. Okay, all right, awesome. Anything else? You want
I
to
think
get
that's
into
good.
it?
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. All right.
I'm ready.
Hello, we're here. Vibe check, October. Do you want me to start or you want to start?
You go ahead, Ben.
All right. I'm going to do it. So October has been holding this big energy in the realm of like transformation, activation, opening of the psyche, transmutation. It's really been a month of like dynamic change and is only going to continue to do so. We have the sun moving into Scorpio at the end of the month. The 23rd, Venus will also be moving into Scorpio. We have a partial. We got a
parser, y'all.
Got my partial then.
Am I rubbing off on you? Is that
I
what
think
you're saying?
so. I'm sounding like honey on a warm biscuit. There it is. I'm like, can we shake this up? All right, cool. So we also got a partial solar eclipse, and Mars in Gemini turning retrograde towards the end of the month. So we are entering eclipse season. So big transformative energy in that realm. Can you feel it happening?
I know I can.
Right. So, and we've got Jupiter in Aries right now, but it's actually going to be stationing retrograde and entering Pisces. Or well, it's already retrograde. It's entering Pisces. Like I was saying, Mars in Gemini is retrograde at the end of the month, so it's really about how we tap into choices and decisions. More habits and patterns will be tapped into as we look at what we are learning, being a teacher via our words and our thoughts. Let's see, we've got this Saturn-Uranus square energy that has been holding some big vibes in the beginning of the month that you may have been feeling. So let's see. So like in the first week of it, the first week in October. So the square between Saturn and Uranus, we also had Jupiter at a half square. It was really accentuating the extremes of Saturn wanting to hold back, and Uranus wanting, that big change, that extreme change, right? Libra season is showing us where we want our energy to be more in balance, and it was also bringing up our consciousness towards compassion and looking at our relationship to other, and how it ties into our own self-worth. So I know like the first week and into the second week, there were big themes surrounding like comparison. We were really like kind of looking at our own circle and comparing ourselves to others, or like comparing our gifts to others. Like there were a lot of sensitivities being highlighted and stuff. So we were really called to kind of keep this in our awareness and not to like go into the deep end of it. Don't go into that programming of comparison that's kind of like imprinted on us, from childhood, where we're just taught to like compare to kind of, recognize the outside world. So it was also bringing up a lot of relationship habits and patterns. Like looking at what you wanted to enjoy, and your needs as it pertains to other people. We were asked to kind of objectively meet people where they were at, so that way we could be met in the same way. Mercury station direct, so there was a lot of we could kind of feel that stop happening. The energetics were kind of having us look at our subconscious thought patterns. It was bringing a lot of stuff to the surface the first week in October. Our mind was kind of sifting through things, especially surrounding our insecurities and our wounds. The past was coming up a lot. Like, Chiron was throwing ass doing some things. So it was like really, making us look at like self-sabotaging tendencies. And yeah, really like what you chose to subscribe to in your mental landscape was really prevalent. And it was asking us to really look at where we could take like self-accountability, where we could have self-sustainability. And that, self-accountability was really allowing us to kind of take the reins on our life and to not to let life happen to us. You know what I mean? There was this tug of war also between like real life and fantasy that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So as we were breaking through these wounds and dissolution, it was kind of like, you know, what do we know to be truth and where are we operating out of old hurt was super prevalent. Yeah, the first week in October was ratchet. So yeah, let's see what happened. Here we go. I'm just looking at my dates. All right, so towards the end of the week, you know, there was this necessity. We were kind of going, the moon was void of course for a few days. So it was really kind of about where we could find fullness in the emptiness. A lot of things were coming to the forefront of our awareness and the need to find, again, how we can have self-sustainability and find wholeness within the self. You probably found yourself like tapping into your own gumption, you know, your own resources to heal and analyze, you know, what is needed to self-soothe and what you value to find balance to the inner and outer landscape. We were hit with a lot of like quantum level pings, like a lot of activation energy has been happening this month as well as last month. I mean, it's just going to continue to happen. We hit a lot of like, there was a lot of like magic being highlighted. Again, those intuitive insights, the flow, like if we were leaning into the flow of it, and the energy of nothingness and really becoming uncomfortable in the comfortable, we were better off. But the more you were resisting the flow, the more it was like kind of taking you into the undertow. And again, we've had a lot of this really dreamy energy too in the beginning of the month where we're seeing like kind of walking in the dream realm. Like dreams were super prevalent. A lot of messages I know personally for me and people I'm in connection with, like a lot of messages coming in through the dreamscape and almost when we were in the waking life and walking in this dream realm. So which is why grounding, which I feel like has been super important, was even more so because it kind of was almost like, I know personally for me this whole month has kind of been like this where I need like a tether so I'm not floating out into the ethers, having a hard time kind of like balancing the 3D life and, you know, channeling spiritual tune-ins and things like that. So yeah, and then falling into escapism is still really big. Mercury was trine with Pluto, so it was accounting for some of like this transformational data being poured into the mental space that was like flooding in with a lot of intensity. And then let's see, where are you at in your new? Before I keep going, because I did it per week, so I'm going into the second week. We don't share notes or like talk about this beforehand. Together.
Yeah. So keep going,
Keep
and
going.
then I'll get into the numerology. Yeah.
Here we go. All right, I'll go until like right after the full moon. Then, yeah.
Perf.
Okay, cool. So we also had between the 8th and the 10th, we had Pluto stationing direct. Moving through the 8th to the 10th, we had the moon moving out of Pisces, and into Aries, giving the emotional space a lot of passion and charged force forward. Collectively, you may have felt the energetics of being able to get things done, especially like because we had the full moon in that range of time. So the 8th, we have Pluto and Capricorn stationed direct. And Pluto and Capricorn, especially as it was retrograde, has been showing a lot of transformation in the realm of our ambitions, giving us insight on how to move through life's perceived challenges. That's what I like to call obstacles, with perseverance. We've been seeing the need to look at our ideals surrounding personal power with the introspection of the retrograde. So like retrogrades, people get really bugged out about them, but really a retrograde is having us look inward. Whereas normally the planets, they're affecting the things outside of us. When we have planets in retrograde, it's telling us to realign, re-envision, recalibrate, and really look inward.
We should look at it as an opportunity rather than muddying the water.
Word. So as it stations direct, we will start to see how these realizations we've been transforming within are going to look in the external landscape. We also have the moon that was in Aries conjunct with Jupiter in Aries, which was offering some powerful energetics towards the initiation of expanding our emotional landscape with control fire, like so tempering the flames in a sense. Aries says I am, so it's a call to step into the thought pattern, questioning of how am I stretching past the preconceived notions of the capacity I can hold in my emotional body with charged force and control. All with the premise of seeing how that can illuminate where we can turn obstacles into opportunities of expansion, like Becca was saying. And so then we had the Aries full moon. Everything was lit. It was yeah, it was a fiery moon.
It sure was.
Yeah. Again, Aries is I am, it's ruling the head, the brain, and the muscles. It's, our drive, it's our expenditure of energy, it's our assertiveness, it's that warrior energy, it's that confronter, initiator. And so it really kind of, there's two sides of the spectrum with it. So it really kind of was offering us this invitation to slow down and proceed at our own pace with things while also watching our temper, because that Aries warrior, and remembering that whatever frustrations were coming up around this time, were going to fade away quickly. Life was definitely feeling like a battlefield around that time, especially in the first quarter of the month. So paying attention to our feelings, but also being mindful of the feelings of others. The moon's reflection really highlighted like our need for support as well, like and where we need that, what that looks like. Where can we sustain on our own, and where can we ask for help? You also could have been feeling a little reckless, so we had to pay attention to that. But yeah, it definitely had, I love that you said Durga, because it definitely had like big Kali, big Durga vibes. Like it was definitely like this big divine feminine warrior fire goddess energy, like really fierce, because as we have the moon as a feminine planet, and then we have Aries, like this big fiery warrior. It was just a really nice combination. And so also we had Mars, that's when it started to square off. So I mentioned that earlier. So Mars in Gemini was squaring off with Neptune in Pisces. So Mars was bringing in more of that assertion towards our communication and the way we speak truth in our interactions, which was very prevalent with the Aries full moon. And Neptune in Pisces is where we see kind of like our imagination, like illusions specifically tied to the spiritual landscape being highlighted. So because we were seeing, it's a lot of stuff.
It sure is.
Yeah. I don't even know where I was. All I know is that, that second week, again, like the thing that was coming up was also that self-value, that self-awareness, that self-knowledge. Like we were kind of drifting. Again, it was like a highlight of where are we trying to escape, how we're feeling, and where are we going to kind of look at those patterns and take them head on. Like where are we operating from wounding, and where are we operating from reality? Where are we operating from past stories and preconceived notions of self, and where are we just going to, be in the present moment and take life as it's coming to us? Because, we also had Chiron doing a lot of things as well, which it's been doing this month. Chiron is our wounded healer. So it's really been doing a lot of aspects that have been asking us to look at the wounds that we cause ourselves even. Right. You know what I mean? Like the stories, the wounds that we don't let go of, because it's almost like, who am I without these, which we talk about a lot. Right. So, yeah.
What other choice do I make?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to keep doing that
You
now.
mean this is a choice?
Right? So, yeah. It was great. Anyways, that's where we are.
It was
a fun ride. It was a fun ride.
A lot again, because this is
highlighting wounds, fiery,
and ratchet. Because again, this month is about its big transformation, big shift. Like, where are you willing to look at the dark crevices of your soul to illuminate and shine light on them, so that you can actually have sustainable growth? Like, how far are you willing to stretch past the idea of self? Like, where are you willing to bend that, and where are you willing to drop it and get it moving?
Pop, lock, and drop.
All right. So that's the full moon, and then I can continue in. So let's get some numbers. Tell us what the numbers were doing the first 2 weeks of October.
Oh my god. Okay. So the previous month always helps lead us into the current month, right? So let's just touch on September for just a second.
Touch it.
So September 2022 was a 33-6 universal month, and we really highlighted that month. I feel like that was the month that really embodied what 2022 was all about. So, when we're still in this 24/6 universal month, right? Universal year, I'm sorry. And so we had a lot to do with relationships, like a lot.
Yeah.
And that's been like
Really
an
big.
ongoing thing this entire
We'll be
year.
done.
6 is I know, right? 6 is the number of relationship, harmony, coming together, love, communication, and having an open experience as far as looking at other viewpoints.
Yeah.
You know, this was a great month, a great opportunity for us to really let our guard down if we were if we were strong enough to do so. You know, and vulnerability has also been a big theme of this month. So we have essentially been trying to rebalance our relationships this entire year.
Yep.
But we talked a lot that month about how we have these lessons around expression in our relationships, ancestral wisdom, and those kinds of connections. October 2022 is a 25/7 universal month. And so towards the end of the year, as it gets closer to the end of the year, the influence of the current year starts to wane. And this month, and this is what I know from numerology and what I received as a message from my guides, was that we are going to get a taste of what 2023 is going to hold for us in this month. So we're going to just see little spurts of themes and for the rest of the year. So we have this theme this month of mental health. And I did not know this was Mental Health Awareness Month when I started writing all this. So I was like, okay, touche. But mental health, 7 is the number of our mental faculties. So the mental space around us, the crown chakra, that was something that Katie and I taught at one of her classes, was the 7th chakra. So it's awareness, heightened senses, ethereal wisdom, and elemental connection. 7 also represents higher learning, education. It helps us with our skillfulness. So this is a great month if you have been feeling called to maybe expand your horizons, expand your skill set. This is a great month to do so. So this month we have so many themes. First and foremost, abandonment issues.
Oh Lord.
So this is surfacing. I know, surfacing right now. Much of this has to do with the fact it's a 25 universal month.
Okay.
Which it desires independence. So that's kind of the 5 aspect. 5 is the number of freedom, like personal freedom, experiences, experimentation, you know, stepping out of your comfort zone, and physicality, and then also partnership, which is where the 2 comes in. You know, we have a lot of 2 energy this year as well. 2 wants that connection. It's almost, you know, a low vibration of 2 is codependency. So we've been grappling with that. Like, who are we if we're not in that kind of an unhealthy attachment, like you were saying with Chiron? You know, we have really been looking at our wounds around our identity, you know, with it being in Aries. You know, it's like, who are you if you aren't with this person? Right. This person's not first and foremost in your life. What if you put yourself first for once?
What if?
Yes. So we've been needing to balance these 2 extremes. And then, of course, like I said, 2 desires to be in close connection. But too much of either of those energies will cause disconnect. So, you know, we've been trying to find a way to, like, you know, how can we make this work? So a big theme for this month is compromise. And if you have abandonment issues, either, you know, with family or romantic relationships, now is the time. It's a great time to heal those wounds. So know that your worth is not tied into the actions of others as well. We all make mistakes. We all do things out of emotion and not from a place of groundedness. So there was also a theme of forgiveness around those things. Know your if you find yourself having issues with commitment, so on the flip side of this, if you have issues with commitment, ask yourself what part of commitment makes you so afraid. Is it truly
question?
Yeah, like, is it the fear? Is it truly a fear of being hurt? Yeah, write it down, girl. No, is it truly a fear of being hurt rather than feeling like, oh, I can't be in this partnership because I'm feeling suffocated, like,
Right.
or do you feel like you will lose your identity if you are in that kind of connection with someone? So a lot of times, and this is another theme of 7 is intimacy issues, because 7 is kind of reclusive. It kind of wants to keep to itself. So, shining a flashlight on all those things,
Solar partial eclipse in Scorpio.
Wow. Oh no. But sometimes it's because we have these patterns that were established in childhood or even a past life causing these feelings. So another aspect is, we're neglecting our own needs in favor of keeping relationships that are not good for us.
Preach.
So here we are doing this flip-flop dance. So all of it's unhealthy dynamic. But
what are your coping mechanisms?
Yeah,
is really what the
but that was like kind of the central mode of healing. That was kind of like the central theme as far as our relationships go, which, like I said, is a big theme of this year. So this month is giving us, like I said, a glimpse of 2023, right? And what that will hold for us as a collective. And the influence of next year will be felt even stronger in November and December.
Okay.
But it'll just, play out in a little bit different way. Right. We are also seeing a trend. So 7 deals with negotiation. So we are going to see this trend continue. It kind of started last month, and that's a similar theme that 6 and 7 hold, is negotiation, trying to make sure that everything is fair and honest, that everybody's needs are being acknowledged and heard. So I'm seeing, because like we were talking about, like the railroad workers and things like that. I feel like those kinds of things are going to continue to happen because it's kind of it's gonna trickle down into other avenues of our society.
Right.
And people are gonna start to say, hey, well, it worked for them, maybe it'll work for me, because I mean, you can't ignore that, workers' rights are seriously being undervalued and neglected, and it's been a theme and it needs to stop. So everyone needs to be, So civil liberties came up. Civil liberties is, I mean, like I said, it's been an ongoing theme, but I feel like it will come to a major head next year. Not so much right now, but I feel like justice and fairness for people when it comes to our voice, ideas, and individuality. Because, as I said, 7 represents justice and fairness. If you look at the astrology.
Yeah. You're saying so many things. I can't wait. I'm just like,
I know, right?
Together so of course it does.
Of course it does. But I believe Libra is the 7th sign of the zodiac. The justice is blind. She's holding the scales.
Right.
So this is something that is going to be even more prevalent next year. We're seeing that now. The right for all viewpoints to exist is going to be a big fight, as it has been. But I really feel, I have a feeling that there will be a lot of resolve as well, because we can't always be at odds. There's going to have to be, something has to give. In other words, is what I heard, and that's the theme that I'm seeing. So judgment and fairness, once again, when it comes to and rebalancing. So 6 is also about rebalancing. 7 also has the theme of balance. It wants things to be able to coexist. The disproportionate demand is not being held up. So we're going to be seeing, like I said, that's just going to be really, really prevalent. I feel like we won't be able to turn on the TV or the radio or anything without hearing about some kind of action being taken. So influence versus interdependence is going to be another theme that we see this month and into next year. Valuing our own voice and our thoughts over tyrannical voices telling us what to believe, think, and feel. the societal constructs, the
Right.
influence that she was talking about. That's part of what this entails. We're gonna
Right.
be like, is this really what I believe, or is
Right.
this what I've just been conditioned to think all this time?
Yep.
We will be pulling away from the disconnected, unrelatable influence of the 1%, vocalizing distrust of large cult-like mentality might get a big pushback. Like, I don't have to go along with this, kind of vibes. And then also 7 is the number of introspection. So as much as it likes to go outside of itself for wisdom and knowledge, it also likes to go inward because it wants to learn all the things. Internalizing the need for balance and stability, which of course is also influence of the 6, and contemplating our next steps. Choosing to value your mental health by going within, asking the hard questions. 7 likes to look at all sides of things, like a very well-rounded perception and an authentic answer. Oh, some help.
There we go.
Okay. So placing value in knowing. 7 likes to know. It likes to know all the things. So once again, back to the theme of mental health, we're going to be noticing or having an awareness of our patterns. So 7 is about patterns and synchronicities, cyclic thinking, identifying our feelings and being able to have the words that explain how we're feeling. I feel like that's personally a struggle for me. It's like I feel a thing, but I don't know how to tell you that. But we're gonna have a little bit more clarity around those feelings, and it's because, like, once again, as we pull our identity away from all of these constructs that we've been living in all this time, we'll be able to have our own voice, and we'll be like, okay, I now understand the channel is there now, it's connected, and I'll be able to express myself in that way. Now 7 is also, and this is a good thing, that it's a number of alchemy. There's 7 steps to alchemy, and it's a 7-step process, and this is a month of opportunity to begin that process of alchemizing during your introspection process.
Nice.
What is it you want or need to alchemize? You'll be able to identify that. This is where we start to recognize, like I said, our patterns. And we understand how to collapse these mental prisons, not just escape them. Escapism. Exactly.
Love it.
Yeah, isn't that cool? No, it's so cool. So we have a real big advantage here, folks, to eliminate toxic thought patterns and allow ourselves the space to create genuine connection within ourselves. And this in turn will bring healthier and more aligned relationships to the forefront. So if and that was something else that came up last month was, relationships leaving our lives. I actually kind of started back in August. But relationships that are not in alignment leaving our leaving our reality.
Beautiful.
Also,
Don't do it yet.
I won't. But I also want to point out one more thing before we go into November is, 10, we're in the 10th month of the year. And the reason why the veil thins this time of year is because it's the 10th month. 1 represents the self and 0 represents spirit.
Wow.
The connection that we have with our spiritual realm. Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
You're cool.
You're cool.
I love it.
All right.
Take it away.
I can't wait to tell you how all of that goes along with everything, per usual. So this
Walter
week...
Cronkite. Wait.
You have to, like... There you go.
Okay.
So the beginning of this week was really... Yeah, this week. We're into this week, and then we're going to roll into it. So it was really kind of about accepting chaos and being able to relinquish control. Mercury was in opposition to Jupiter, among other things. Again, we have that Mars squares Neptune aspect. the sun was trine with Saturn. So the day was carrying, like the beginning of the week was carrying big energetics of making our relationship with how we gather information, and what that looks like in relation to other people in balance. We were open to receiving other people's viewpoints, but we also might have been challenging that in relation to self. We had the mindset of seeing the bigger picture, but definitely this week has been kind of about, as we become more clear and attuned with listening to our own intuition, we filter all of our interactions through that perspective lens. So it was very much, it's balancing in relationships, but how do I feel about it first? Does this feel good in my body as I move through, with my interactions with others? The sun trine with Saturn can account for this sense of fairness, wanting to accrue in relation to traditional value systems, to structural systems. There was a heightened sense of awareness surrounding decisions the beginning of the week. And there's really like this doorway kind of opening to the higher realms. So paying attention to a lot of messages that have been coming through, like in the beginning of the week, like really observing those things. And like the shift of the seasons is like super palpable right now.
For sure, it is.
And you were talking about that withdrawal. So like these feelings of withdrawing into the self. Seclusion has kind of been a little prevalent as we seek to let go of identification and move more into embodiment of the senses, so to speak. So like observation has been highlighted tremendously.
Totally. Where are you going?
Venus moved into Libra, so there's this pull to need to find love within the self, and that again, this codependency, that sense of being incomplete without a mate. Venus in Libra, it has like a very loving and romantic nature, but on the other end of this, it's those feelings of commitment. This like of like not mistaking infatuation with love, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, and
like building something up in your mind.
Which again, that Mars square Neptune aspect, where it's kind of like putting us in this dreamy where like Mars and Gemini is like, I'm gonna grab this, and I'm gonna grab this, and I'm gonna grab this, and Neptune's like, ooh, illusion and magic. So magic. So like what are you storytelling in your relationships? And Libra has this aversion to conflict sometimes, but it also invites you to be mindful of not agreeing things that don't jive with you, that don't jive with your being. With the Venus in Libra trine Saturn aspect that happened on yesterday. It happened on yesterday. And also again with this Mars square Neptune aspect that's happening in this later half of the month. And a couple other things. We're getting a lot of mental clarity and connection with others as long as we can keep our hearts open and avoid jumping to conclusions. So that's a big thing. Like not jumping to conclusions. Yesterday was like, you know what I mean? And even kind of going into today, like making sure you're thinking before you speak, like making sure you're not just worst case scenario.
It makes me think. It makes me think of that movie Office Space, where he had the jump to conclusions mat. He's like, get it?
We need one of those.
We need one of those.
So we've really, again, so that observation thing, we were like looking at things from an objective and rational standpoint. That's super helpful right now because we're rotating through a lot of points of perspection. Everybody's kind of like looking through perspective lens of self. So being mindful of that, and also being mindful, again, that escapism, but not detaching. Because we can be feeling very sensitive and raw, and it's a very vulnerable place. So making sure you're not detaching or dissociating, and you're really sitting with those feelings in your body and looking at them from a objective standpoint.
What if I want to disassociate?
Well, just come back from the darkness. Anyways, so next week. Next. Sorry. Okay. It's gonna be like the
Katie's like, she's spoken.
Spit it out. I'm taking notes here.
All right. So we've got a lot of things happening next week, and we're gearing up again. Like I was saying, we've got that partial solar eclipse in Scorpio, which is going to be super fun, and Venus is kind of tied with it. Venus is doing a Cassini, which means that it's coming in closer relationship to the sun. My ear is buzzing. So it's heating up. So think like it's, what does the sun do to things? It brightens them and passion, it inflames them, right? Okay, so the beginning of the week, we notice a focus on the heart center coming into focus, and some transformation in the emotional body is going to be happening. We will be deep diving into what nourishes the heart and doing so in a very playful and expressive way. Let's see. On the other side of this, we may be feeling a little overly emotional if we're not careful. There may be a tendency, again, like I was saying, to fantasize a bit in the beginning of the week, and making sure you pay attention to what is coming from that place of truth and what is based in our imagination feels really important with the energetics. Pretty much like be wary of joy burnout, I guess, or drowning in the emotions as we're going through, again, a bit of transformation via the emotional body in the beginning of the week. So staying grounded, like staying tethered to the earth, will be super helpful.
Right.
Because, with the eclipse, Mars is also going to be retrograde at the end of the month. So keeping this in the background as it's starting to slow down as it's going to station retrograde. And we have some big squares happening, so things that will create some tension. In this second half of the month, joy,
Just what we need.
but also tension. It brings things to the forefront so you can deal with them, and so that way you can make structural change with them, right? So we've got the sun, squaring Pluto, we've got Venus squaring Pluto, and we've got Mercury squaring Pluto. So Pluto is in Capricorn, so think like boundaries, goals, sense of thinking, thinking their way is the way, kind of, with this aspiration of power tied to Pluto, which is bringing like things out from the underbelly, right, to the forefront so that transformation can occur. Sometimes it can be a bit uncompromising. Pluto and Capricorn can be a little traumatic in how it transforms structures, challenging how we can relate to each other and the planet in general. So, yeah, fun stuff. So, on the 19th, Pluto is going to square the Sun in Libra. So, with the Libra aspects happening, we are looking at how being diplomatic and wanting the approval of our peers matters, but also we are needing to tune into our own ideas. The Sun squaring Pluto, it's going to invite, like, stay away from being harsh. Like, have a little compassion. Again, don't close that heart off. Look at what power means to you and how that relates to getting what you want as well. Appearances will be highlighted. Like, the appearance that you put on, to the way you self-express is going to be highlighted. So also on the 19th, we have Venus in Libra squaring Pluto and Capricorn. So we see this energetic of wanting to balance our own needs for comfortability, going through some transformative changes. You will be hyper aware of your resources, your own gumption, and how that ties into the commitments you've made in regard to the self and others. Being honest with yourself is going to be super important next week. And in interactions, making sure you speak truthfully and with a higher perspective. That's going to, that taking the higher. Yeah. And so, like I was talking about, this kamikaze, the Cassini. I'm still a student, y'all. Okay?
I mean, you could have said kamikaze and I would have believed you. I'd
Right?
be like, oh, okay.
That's not the right thing. Anyways, so on the 22nd, so towards the end of next week, Venus is right by the sun. So it's kind of like it's getting closer and closer to the sun, which is called a Cassini, which means that the planet is in close proximity to the sun or in the heart of the sun. It's burning up. So it's interesting. So, like, there's going to be this empowerment of Venus, right? As it's close to the seat of the throne of the sun, right? The king. So this could be a very interesting day for, like, the exaltation of feminine power. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, someone in feminine power, like, came to the forefront, or it's just going to be, and not only for women but for men too, because again we have duality within all of us, right? The divine feminine essence and the divine masculine.
Come through, queen.
So yeah, and then so I think it's going to be, I'm curious to see what the 22nd holds. And then it is the day of our class, feminine power and its exaltation.
Boom.
There you go.
We'll tell you about that in a minute.
So on the 23rd, Saturn in Aquarius is going to station direct. Yay!
Wow.
So as with the retrograde, where we were turning inward about the structures of self, now it's going to be focusing more on the collective level, and we'll be paying more close attention to the collective aspect again. So kind of what you were talking about, how all these things are kind of going to continue to move. It's going to be bathroom in here and out there. Saturn, structures, tradition.
Right.
And then we will be going, and then fun stuff. So towards the end of next week and into the last week, we're going to be going into the more shadowy aspect of the month for a couple different reasons. So shadowy. And again, that introspection, like introspective depths, opening the psyche even more. We're going to have even more, like, psyche transformative activation. It's going to be lit.
Rad.
So the moon will be moving out of Libra and into Scorpio. We will also be coming into Scorpio season. And then Venus is also entering Scorpio. And so we have this partial, I get excited. This partial solar eclipse in Scorpio happening, right? So we're going to be investigating and gaining clarity, especially surrounding our goals and how that ties into our integrity. We're going to see the importance of the tie between like divine timing and aligning it properly to lay foundations towards setting goals. There will be this existential awareness surrounding reviewing lessons that have come up the beginning of the year and how that relates to our current relationships, how that ties into our boundaries we've been setting in them, things like that. And so on the 25th, here it is, we have the partial solar eclipse on the south node in Scorpius, conjunct with Venus. And of course, it's also going to be a new moon because that's when eclipses like that happen. So it'll be bringing up some challenges or things to look at surrounding like Venetian things, right? So relationships, sexuality, intimacy. So we will see this dive into the subterranean depths of connection and how that ties into pleasure, love, nourishment, while also again some challenges in the like things that are suppressed, like you were saying, like where are you suppressing these things,
Right.
Or you could find some difficulties if you close your heart off due to fear of harsh judgments. Remember we also have this undertone too, right, that Mars with this Mars square Neptune. So there's something that we will feel captured by. Mars likes to take rash, bold risks sometimes. So as it's in relation to Scorpio eclipse with Venus throwing ass. Sorry, Jennifer, I cursed. Before Mars, I feel like such a bad girl. I literally wrote throwing ass.
He's so naughty. That's literally in her notes, y'all.
It's literally
oh my gosh.
in my notes. Before Mars stations retrograde on the 30th. So anyways, all of this with the eclipse, it's like the eclipse is going to ask us to revisit, realign, reimagine the things we want to put our time and our energy into surrounding what fulfills us, what brings us pleasure, what grabs at our enthusiasm. This eclipse will be calling us to have serious conversations of transformation surrounding these themes. It's really going to be highlighting desires. It's going to invite this like allowance of surrender in to transform our below the surface fears, or where we have been suppressing or holding ourselves back. Self-love is like a big theme. A good question for this eclipse that I came up with was, where does my self-worth or self-value correlate with the connections I am in? How can I come to terms to my emotional truth surrounding that? Because it's really going to invite us to be vulnerable in that, really vulnerable in that space so that deep and true intimacy can occur within the self and also within our relationships. Because if we can't have deep emotional intimacy with the self, then how can we expect to mirror that in our relationships?
That's 6 and 7 energy right there. Yep.
I like it.
And so, again, with the squares that are happening, Mercury is going to square Pluto, and on the same day, Jupiter retrograde is entering Pisces. So remember, we have Jupiter in Aries right now, so there's a little bit of a different energy when it enters Pisces. Truth and information towards the end of the month, truth and information will be coming to the surface that may have been hidden. There will be a lot of depth surrounding these things. We will be gaining a lot of expansive, intuitive insight, allowing us to really gain clarity around things that we enjoy and how that ties into the kind of the great mystery of life. We're going to experience a lot of spiritual highs. The veil is thinning, so that makes sense, with the invitation to observe also like where we're overindulging and make sure we're not amplifying any negative, shadowy vibes, because again, we have the sun moving into Scorpio. Like, go into the shadow, but remember to come up for air. Seems prevalent. Pay attention to situations that make you feel like you want to escape, and create new structures surrounding that, like create new coping mechanisms surrounding that, or even just observing, what are my coping mechanisms when I want to escape? What coping mechanisms am I using to move through that? Are they healthy? Are they sustaining? Mercury square to Pluto will be giving messages that will be they'll feel very life-changing towards the end of the month. We're going to have like a lot of life-changing kind of feeling conversations and insights. The square will be powerful because it's going to reveal things that are hidden about the self and how we move into the world. We're really going to be investigating how we bring our realizations out into real life, so to speak, in a fair and structurally sound way. And then with Jupiter, Lord, Jupiter, help me. So Jupiter entering Pisces, whereas in Aries, we're a little more fiery. Pisces is a little more watery, receptive to our expansion and our growth, and tapped into the emotional body more intensely. On the 29th, Mercury is going to enter Scorpio as well. So watching that you speak intentionally is going to be super important. Watching that you speak truth and watching negative dialogues and thought loops at that time. And then on the following day, we have Mars finally stationing retrograde. So again, this energetic of things being uncovered, watching the way that you respond as opposed to the way you react. The last week it's going to shift a lot of these things within us, and the energetics will carry out through the rest of the year. And even into the next 6 months, because we're entering eclipse season. So we will really be morphing the ideas of self, uncovering our desires, again, these emotional truths within us, and transforming the framework in which we conceptualize how we balance what our desires are and what that means in relation to how we prioritize our ambitions moving forward. Again, not only in our relationships, but in our spiritual day-to-day growth. And then we're going into November.
Here we go.
Anyway, so yeah, all it is to say, just expect in the last end of the month, going into kind of the shadowy aspect of it, which is going to kind of lead into the energetics going into November, the month of November. I can't wait for fucking November. Oh, yeah. But yeah, just like kind of looking into the shadowy, remembering not to like get too far into the shadow, like coming up for breath, like, and a lot of things are going to be highlighted in how am I using my own intuition and my own identification of self to move through my relationships to find balance that's sustaining for both of us.
I can dig it.
Can you?
Yes.
Do you want to do the numbers first, or you want me to talk about the energetics? What you driving with, girl?
Okay, so I'll touch on November because that is all very much relevant. November will be a 35-8 universal month. So we'll be addressing some karmic shit this month. 8 is the number of karma.
I thought you were going to say 8 is the number of karmic shit.
That too.
Again and again.
Yes. So this isn't just an opportunity of like, this isn't just like us experiencing karma, it's also creating karma. So the 35 is about creating something in the physical. It's about, making it, it's a very powerful manifestation number, as is 8. So we will be manifesting a lot of things next month. So be careful, be aware of your thoughts, be aware of your emotions. And this is a great month to kind of get your thinking right, and so to speak.
Get your head right.
Yeah, get your head right. So that next month, when you start manifesting and bringing all these things into your reality, it's the things that you want, not the things that you don't. So we're going to have themes around creative freedom and freedom of expression. We're going to be having a lot of talks. Our words are going to be very important next month. And but this time it's going to be trickling in, like I said, the influence of this, this next year. So it might look less like emotion and more like almost an authoritarian type of energy, with the 7 and the 8 influence. So we're going to be seeing themes around more negotiations, as I said, business. This is a great month to, get your affairs in order, get, your finances in order and straightened out. I'm feeling, I don't know why, but I'm feeling like property is going to be a big theme next month. I don't know where that's coming from, but
acquiring property or
anything to do with property, taxes, buying and selling, maybe it's something to do with the real estate market.
Okay.
So we're just going to see a lot of themes around you know, the big machine, you know, and all of its moving parts. Business is going to be at the forefront next month. But it'll be a very good opportunity for you to create something new and bring about like physically bring about the ideas that you've been kind of mulling over. Maybe you have some ideas this month. Next month will be a month where you can implement those ideas. Yes. It's okay. And it'll also be a really great time to collaborate with people who can help you bring those ideas into reality as well. Yes.
Nice.
Gang, gang.
Love it.
So yeah, you didn't say something I thought you were gonna say.
What's that?
You'll do it when I say it.
Okay.
So yeah, going into November, something that was coming up for me was like this saying where it was like death and rebirth is a gift.
Yes.
Honoring the cycles. So like, and to honor these cycles within me as I reflect on how that is mirrored in the outer landscape, as within, so without, I am able to reclaim and harness a more sustainable and truthful power. So as we've been feeling like this transformative energy building, in November, the month will again be about transformation, power, sexuality, honoring the shadow aspect and its correlation to the light. It will have us looking at the illusion of death, which to me really feels like egoic death. It can be physical death, but like really this ego death, calling us to look past it in order to welcome in new growth. November carries like this phoenix energetics for me.
Okay.
Letting the flames consume and extinguish any limitations so new growth can ensue. Like I have like the imagery of like controlled wildfires, you know, like out in California.
Okay.
Venus, Mercury, and the Sun will be entering Sagittarius. I might be like a little
partial
because I've got mostly Sagittarius in my
Yeah.
chart. So, you know, next month there's going to be a lot of this wandering and movement in the heart space, our communication and retrieval of information and how we express ourselves. November will definitely feel like a big observation of the light and the dark and how we can play with those and play in that duality. November's gonna be lit. I'm excited about it.
Yes.
And then yeah, so you want to get into? Do you want to do your record? So that's it.
That's it.
Now we're into correspondences.
Hooray!
Yeah, and I kind of did correspondences for this month, like leading into the rest of the month, and a couple for November, but they kind of tie in together, like the end of the month and beginning of month.
Okay.
They bleed into each other.
Very cool.
What do the records say?
Okay, so mainly the two messages that I had channeled for the month of October were about mental health, and how it's highlighted, you know, and it's going to be highlighted, you know, going into next year as well, and there's a reason for that. So this is partially due to the fact that the energies of Earth are quickening, increasing, and our mental and emotional and physical embodiments just have not caught up.
Yep.
That's why everything feels so intense, because it is. And we're sitting here like, what do I do? You know? And it's like we can't fully ground, like we can't fully like, you know, assimilate these energies, but it's like we're trying so hard to catch up. I think that's why a lot of people are just like so exhausted all the time.
And I think even like personally for us, I know like the beginning of the week, there was like one day where I called her and was just like in my shit, like could not, like my mental facilities were not up to par.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And there was this
we were
big
not
disconnect.
okay.
I was not okay. Like, and I remember being, I am not okay. Like, and just needing to go to the park. And I think it was super busy that day, and there were like a million people there. And I was like on the phone with Beck. I'm like, why is everybody here? Like, just talking.
How dare you come to a public
outside?
Park, you know?
You know, but there was this hyper awareness of like that disconnect of the emotional and the mental landscape. And then you kind of took on the next day. It was your turn.
It was my turn.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But it's so funny how, yeah, there is, like, it's tied in with, like, it's Mental Health Awareness Month and, like, the energetics and the numerology. And it's just, like, you look at these things and, again, we always say, like, the awareness of these energies and the awareness of, like, how they tie into the collective is so important, and figuring out how to navigate it.
Yes, absolutely. So... yeah, so because of that, you know, everything's very polarizing, you know, and that's very draining as well.
The paradox.
we're on very polarizing frequencies and have been, but there will be a very stark difference. So many people will find themselves feeling heavier, but it's really important to balance out the chi of the body. That was something that very strongly came through. We're not properly pushing that out. Yeah, pushing that energy out of us. We're just carrying it. It's like, no, bro, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, bro.
And we are also seeing this play out on the world stage with the disparity in our economic and socio-political realm. The polarization will only continue if the suppression goes unchecked. So I feel like that was a wink and a nod to the negotiation aspect of the numerology that I was talking about. So we really need to, like, make these changes happen for ourselves, but we have to do it from a very centered place. And so we need to be doing everything we can to get to that grounded, clear thinking spot, however that looks for us.
Word, my nerd.
Word.
That was a good reminder. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, thank you for that.
But chi just kept coming, push it. I just kept seeing, like, someone
Moving
go,
energy
pushing it
that
out.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because, with my other job, like my day job, seeing patients all day. And at the end of the day, I'm not always, cleansing from that.
You're carrying those energies in your field.
Yeah.
And
I think
affecting.
I can feel that, even kind of today.
Yeah. And to be clear, it's it hits us in different areas, I guess you could say. It might be more emotional, at some times. It might be more mental at other times. Like, it manifests in different ways depending on where we're at.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I think that's again like that theme of being the observer, and really observing where and recognizing your coping mechanisms and how you're working through that. Yeah, remembering the breath, the prana, moving energy. Yeah.
Right.
In a cohesive way. Yeah, it's real important,
Show is.
I like it.
Yeah. What tarot correspondences do you have for us?
Okay, so, well, I'm kind of far away, but the chariot, the chariot card, of course, is the 7th card in the tarot. And, the chariot represents balance and success and, uncompromising what it is that you want. This is about really truly embodying your calling and what you want to step into. And then we have the 8, which will which will represent November for us. Of course, it's it has a lot of power. 8 is the number of power. And, recognizing your power, that you can move through anything, give yourself grace, but also know that you are a badass. And remember that about yourself as you move through these energies. And then, of course, the 6th card is the Lovers, which this has been the theme of relationships and love and all that. I'm just kidding. But just just remembering to compromise. It's like it's funny because we have the 6 and the 7, and it's like, compromise, don't compromise, compromise, don't compromise. We have that juxtaposition there. And then, of course, we have all that 2 energy, the High Priestess card. That polarization that we were talking about. This card has been very prevalent, that feminine energy, that wanting to get out of the codependent mind frame. Sovereignty, yes, queen, literally. Yes. And then in 2023, so I wanted to bring up the Empress card, because we're gonna see these 2 ladies working together with the 23 energy. And the Empress is saying, girl, child, please don't act ratchet, please sit in your truth. You are a queen just like me, she's embodying that sovereignty, that free spirit.
Yes.
And, yeah. feeling
I love
alive.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of
She's
sitting all
empowered.
serious on her throne and, dwelling in her emotions.
Right.
She's
That
like,
balance of the light and the shadow.
mm-hmm. That's exactly it. Love it.
Wham bam.
Wow.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Wonderful. So herbal correspondences. Like I said, I chose some. Okay. I chose some. Where you going? I'm just kidding. I like how you whispered, like nobody would notice you leaving.
right?
So some herbal correspondences, and like I said, I chose some that are kind of themes going the rest of the month and into the month of November. So, and ones that I've been personally working with this month so far. So rhodiola. It's a great root. It's going to give us mental clarity. It also helps to reduce stress. Magically, it enhances our spiritual powers. So, like as we're like activating, we're becoming more tuned in with our emotions and our intuition. Spiritual power is super important. So, rhodiola is a great root to work with. Ginseng is something I've been vibing with. So this is going to be great for strengthening the overall system. It also improves our stamina. And magically, it invokes power, attraction, and overall well-being. Ginger, which I mean with the changing of the seasons, it's a great antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. But in magic, we can use it to access the astral realms. It's great for release, stimulation, our well-being. So as we're getting all these intuitive insights, as the veil is thinning, it just hits so many. Burdock is another great root to work with. So this is actually going to strengthen our liver, which is what breaks down the toxins in our body. And in magic, it's great for protection and cleansing, and also balances our internal heat. So like I was saying, in November, we've got this Phoenix energy going on, so it's going to really help to balance also that duality between the light and the dark. Let's see, Tulsi. You'll always hear me talk about Tulsi. It's like the OG. It's Lakshmi.
Gang.
Yeah, it's
Right
Lakshmi, who I work with. So this is an adaptogen. It's one of the overall most wonderful, in my opinion, adaptogens other than ashwagandha. But it's a great overall wellness herb, and it reduces stress. And in magic, you can use it for like pretty much it's like a holy herb. So like anything pulling in positive energy and things like that. Abundance, manifestation, things like that. Mullein. So again, with the changing of the seasons, it's really helpful for the respiratory system. It's magically really good for awareness and spiritual protection, which I feel like is super important right now. I know like the beginning of this week, and I can kind of feel the energetics going, there's like this need for psychic protection, for spiritual protection, for like we were saying, like protecting the emotional and spiritual body, especially when you're interacting with others, like being aware what you're pulling in, and that you're releasing and alchemizing those things properly. So that's great for that. Mugwort is another great one. So as we've been kind of walking in this dreamy between worlds, that kind of thing, it's a great sleep aid. It also helps with digestion, which is super wonderful, and it helps us to travel in the astral realm. So like really being able to recollect your dreams and things like that, it's super helpful. Damiana, this one I particularly chose for November. I love Damiana, but you can make a tonic with this for stress. It also helps with like low energy. Your libido, it's great for that. In magic, you can use it for dream work, for sexuality. Sexuality magic, which, with those two queens, it's going to be super prevalent. November's going to have you feeling spicy. Nettle is another great one. This is going to be super nourishing, which is very important this time of year, especially with all these mental health things going on and all of this kind of tug of war that's happening between the emotional and the physical body, the spiritual and the mental body. Nettle is great for that, for nourishing the system. It's also an anti-inflammatory. It calms the emotions. Magically, you can work with it to do spell work surrounding like limitations and boundaries, and it's also great for psychic protection. And then raspberry leaf. This is just a great herb. It oxygenates the blood cells. It's also good for the GI tract, so that digestion, as we're going through all these emotional changes, you might notice that your digestive system kind of starts acting funny if you're not like self-regulating your emotions and stuff. So that's a super helpful one for your GI tract. And you also can use it again in sensuality magic, So like sensuality, sexuality magic is going to be something that you're probably going to want to work with in November, especially again that duality between the light and the dark self. And tapping into that sensual nature, especially as we're going into Scorpio season, and then in the beginning of the month we'll be in Scorpio season. Scorpio is very sensual. I think it rules the 8th house, like which is, you know, which part of that is like sex, power. So yeah, that's what I chose for then, and of course there'll be more when we do the November vibe check. But lit. So yeah, again, transformation of the psyche has been occurring. Just stay grounded, which I feel like we keep saying, presence in the body and staying grounded.
Yes, because it's so important, and I feel like as we get wrapped up in our day-to-day lives and we get busy and things like that, we forget, and then the end of the day comes and we're like, oh, I'm so exhausted. You know, it's like, take that time, carve that time out for yourself. Allow yourself that grace and that opportunity to heal.
Yeah. And I think it's almost kind of too like having a spiritual toolbox, right?
It sure
because
is.
It's like very easy to forget the tools that we have to successfully like maneuver through things sometimes we're in the moment. So like even checking in with yourself at the beginning of the day, I feel like is coming through and saying, what tools do I have? Okay, my breath work. If that's something you do, like even your breath is like the biggest tool you can have as far as just like attuning back into the body. For me, it's movement. What's something that you use to bring yourself back into center?
I personally, I like to be in and around water. I love to take baths, especially salt baths. That really helps, like, dissipate the energies that are not for me. I also like to just go outside, put my bare feet in the grass, do some movement. I don't do the cool movements like you do, but I still, you know,
comparison, cut it out.
I know, but I try to honor, you know, where I'm at.
So yeah, again, I think it's like being clear, like at the beginning of your day, just like what spiritual
what
tools
feels
do I
good.
have? Like what makes me feel good when I'm not feeling good, and let me remember these things when shit hits the fan, so that I can kind of temper the flames and and
listening to high vibrational music is also a great way to just kind of recenter yourself, you know, get back into that space, that flow.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Thanks, Katie. You're the best. Love you.
Is it still ongoing?
It is. Yes, we're almost done.
We're almost
finishing
done.
up right now.
Very good.
So so we're wrapping up.
We're wrapping up. So do we want to talk about the workshop?
Yes. So before we close out, do you want to talk?
I'll do it if you want me to.
Do it, girl.
Okay.
Hello, my baby.
So not this Saturday. Next Saturday, the 22nd, Ashli and I have a workshop at Delta Groove Yoga. It's intuitive numerology and herbal astrology.
Magic,
And it's going to be so lit. Like, y'all need to come for it. But it's going to be in Memphis, Tennessee. If you're not local, it will be streamed online, so you can check it out.
Technology.
You can go to deltagrooveyoga.com, and they have a list of classes and workshops, and that's where you can sign up.
And it'll be including intuitive numerology for the energetics going on. There'll be some interactive herbal things happening. Becca's going to be leading a beautiful guided meditation. Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful experience. You'll definitely want to check it out.
Really looking forward to it.
And I think we're going to be doing like a more intensive one where we're actually teaching about numerology, teaching about herbal magic and ties to astrology. So that's to come. It's essentially like a live and in-person vibe check.
Yes.
Which is
but also not.
But also kind of. So yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah. So we really look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you for coming to the vibe check today.
And again,
thank you, Katie.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you to New Day. Thank you to Katie Billings for joining us today. Thank you to Miss Jennifer Ledbetter. And
Thank you, guys.
we love you
Thank
all.
You so much.
Yes.
Ta-ta.
Okay. Ta-ta for now.
Hurry, run. Turn it off. Run.
No. I can't run fast enough.
Do you get to do any editing of it?
Not for the live.
Not for, not